What if the actor you idolized your entire life, the one you defended in every argument, bought every ticket for, waited hours to meet, looked you dead in the eyes, and made you feel like the biggest fool in the room? It happened. More than you know. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 12 Hollywood legends who treated their biggest supporters like absolute strangers, or worse. Some of these will genuinely surprise you. Others will break your heart. And at least one might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about your favorite star. Stay until the end, because number one is someone almost nobody talks about. We spend our lives rooting for these people. We buy the merchandise, stream the movies, defend them online at 2 a.m. But fame does something strange to certain people. Instead of gratitude, it breeds entitlement. Instead of warmth, it creates walls. These aren't villains. They're complicated, flawed human beings, but their behavior toward fans crossed a line that's hard to ignore. Let's get into it. Wallace Beery. Let's start back in the golden age of Hollywood, where the glamour was real, but the illusions were even realer. Wallace Beery was a massive star at MGM in the 1930s. Films like The Champ made audiences believe he had a big, bruised, beautiful heart beneath that rough exterior. He won an Oscar. He was beloved. Off-screen? Completely different story. Beery wasn't just private, he was openly hostile. Fans who approached him hoping for even a smile were often met with cold stares or sharp dismissals. To him, the very people who funded his career were little more than an inconvenience. Studios worked overtime to hide this, carefully protecting the gap between his lovable image and his actual personality. It worked for a while. But the truth, as always, found a way out. Richard Burton. Some people think they're too intelligent for the room. Richard Burton thought he was too intelligent for Hollywood itself. Trained in classical Shakespearean theater, Burton often viewed mainstream film as a compromise of his real talent. And because of that mindset, he frequently looked down on the audiences who adored him, seeing their admiration as shallow rather than sincere. His romance with Elizabeth Taylor made him one of the most photographed men on the planet. But instead of embracing that attention, he became increasingly dismissive of it. He was known for cutting, articulate remarks that left fans feeling embarrassed for even approaching him. Burton openly criticized celebrity culture, all while cashing every check it handed him. A brilliant contradiction. And a genuinely lonely kind of arrogance. Katharine Hepburn. Here's the thing about Katharine Hepburn: she was independent, fierce, and refused to play Hollywood's games. People loved her for that. But there's a fine line between refusing to conform and just being cold to the people who care about you. Hepburn believed her responsibility to fans ended the moment the cameras stopped rolling. Fame, to her, was a professional transaction, not a personal relationship. Approach her in public? You'd likely get sharp remarks, visible irritation, or complete silence. Photographers were treated even worse. Some incidents crossed into outright aggression. Her defenders called it strength. Her critics called it elitism. The fans caught in the middle? They called it heartbreaking. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando changed acting forever. His raw, realistic style rewired what performance could be. Generations of actors exist because of what he did on screen. And yet, he couldn't stand the people who worshipped him for it. Brando viewed fandom as irrational. When fans approached him for autographs, he didn't just decline, he interrogated them. He'd look them in the eye and ask, "Why would you want the signature of someone you've never met?" He turned what should have been a warm moment into an uncomfortable, almost philosophical confrontation. The irony? Brando used his fame to negotiate some of the biggest paychecks in Hollywood history. He needed the audience. He just had zero interest in acknowledging them. W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields made a career out of being cynical. His entire on-screen persona was built on sarcasm, sharpness, and contempt for everyday life. Audiences laughed at it. They thought it was a performance. It wasn't. Fields carried that exact energy into every public interaction he ever had. Fans expecting comedy got the real version, and the real version wasn't funny. It was cutting, dismissive, Cold. He had little patience for people in general, and the idea that fame came with social obligations genuinely irritated him. Ironically, that authentic cynicism became part of his brand, which means his rudeness actually helped his career. Fields managed to turn being a terrible person into a marketing strategy. You have to respect the hustle, even if nothing else. Lucille Ball. This one stings. Because Lucy, the character, was pure joy. Warm, chaotic, lovable. The real Lucille Ball was a sharp, disciplined, extraordinarily driven businesswoman who ran one of the most powerful production studios in Hollywood. Desilu Productions wasn't a hobby, it was a battle she won every single day in a male-dominated industry. And because of that, she had zero patience for fans who expected her to be Lucy in real life. When people crossed her personal space expecting the warmth from the TV screen, they were often met with bluntness that left them stunned. Ball made it abundantly clear, the woman on television was a character. The woman standing in front of you was not available for your entertainment. Was it understandable? Absolutely. Was it still jarring for fans who'd grown up loving her? Completely. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra is one of the most fascinating cases on this list, because his relationship with fans actually changed over time. Early in his career, he fed off that energy. The screaming girls, the sold-out shows, the devotion, he thrived on all of it. It built him. But as his power grew, so did his intolerance for the very attention that made him famous. By the height of his career, approaching Sinatra in public was a genuinely risky move. His reactions were unpredictable: irritation, harsh words, sometimes outright intimidation. His security team became a wall between him and anyone who dared get too close. And here's the strangest part: it made people more obsessed with him. His untouchability became part of his mystique. The man who could dismiss you without a second thought was somehow more magnetic because of it. Frank Sinatra figured out that in Hollywood, sometimes being cold makes you hotter. Greta Garbo. Most of the people on this list were openly hostile. Greta Garbo chose a different kind of rejection, one that was quieter, but somehow cut deeper. She simply pretended you didn't exist. Garbo was one of the most famous women in the world, and she moved through it like a ghost. Fans who recognized her in public were met with silence. A deliberate turning away. No autographs, no fan mail responses, no interviews. She didn't need to be cruel, invisibility was enough. The strange thing? It worked in her favor. Her complete detachment made her legendary. The more unreachable she became, the more fascinating audiences found her. Garbo turned absence into artistry. But for the fans who just wanted one moment of acknowledgement, one look, one word, the silence must have been devastating. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was the king of cool. On screen, he embodied everything people wanted to be: confident, fearless, effortlessly in control. Off screen, the coolness curdled into something else entirely. McQueen was distant, guarded, and at times openly hostile to the fans who idolized him. Autograph requests were regularly denied, sometimes with harsh language and dismissive gestures. He viewed public attention with deep suspicion, like an intrusion rather than a compliment. What made it harder to swallow was the clear double standard. McQueen commanded enormous salaries and enormous respect, both of which came directly from public admiration. He benefited massively from his fame. He just wanted nothing to do with the people providing it. Humphrey Bogart. Bogart's on-screen persona was the tough, no-nonsense outsider who always had a cutting line ready. Turns out, that wasn't really acting. He genuinely believed his only professional obligation was to perform while on screen. Everything beyond that, the autographs, the handshakes, the fan interactions, he saw as unnecessary noise. When admirers approached him, Bogart often responded with sarcasm so sharp it made fans feel foolish for their own enthusiasm. He didn't just decline interaction, he made you feel like wanting interaction was somehow embarrassing. Bogart called it authenticity. He was just being real, he'd say. And in a certain light, you can almost understand it. But understanding it didn't make it hurt less for the fans who walked away feeling dismissed for simply caring. Christian Bale, extra actor, deep research. Christian Bale is undeniably one of the most talented actors of his generation. His commitment to his roles is legendary, losing over 60 pounds for The Machinist, then bulking back up for Batman Begins. Nobody debates his craft. But his treatment of fans? That's a very different conversation. According to his former publicist, Bale would reportedly lecture young girls who asked for autographs about being rude and intrusive, reducing them to tears while their parents watched helplessly. BuzzFeed: these weren't paparazzi or aggressive autograph dealers. These were children who simply loved his work. Bale has a documented history of declining autograph requests in very direct or blunt manners, with reports suggesting he particularly dislikes being approached when he is with his family or in personal settings. Fiction horizon. His defenders say he values privacy and authenticity. His critics say there's a significant difference between setting boundaries and making a child cry for daring to admire you. Tobey Maguire, extra actor, deep research. He played Spider-Man, the friendliest superhero in the universe. A character literally defined by his connection to the everyday people around him. The irony of what we're about to tell you is almost too much. Fans actually voted Tobey Maguire the worst autograph signer in Hollywood, with many claiming he was too wrapped up in his own ego to genuinely interact with supporters. Quora. In 2007, he reportedly used his quick reflexes to slap a camera directly out of a fan's hand. Watch Mojo let that sink in. Spider-Man, slapping a fan's camera away. During the height of his Spider-Man fame, various reports detailed his consistent refusal to sign for fans at airports and outside restaurants. He is known to be extremely protective of his privacy and regularly avoided the traditional fan-celebrity dynamic entirely. Fiction horizon. He played a hero who understood that with great power comes great responsibility. In real life, the power came. The responsibility? Not so much. So there you have it, 12 Hollywood legends who drew a hard, sometimes cruel line between themselves and the people who made them famous. Now look, some of these stories are about privacy. Some are about burnout. Some are genuinely understandable, even if they still stung. Fame is a pressure none of us can truly imagine from the outside. But here's the thing that stays with you: none of these people were forced to become famous. They chose it. They built careers on it. They cashed the checks that came with it. The least they could have offered, maybe, was the dignity of basic human acknowledgement to the people who made all of it possible. Which one on this list genuinely surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories from behind the Hollywood curtain that they never wanted you to hear, subscribe, because we're just getting started.